Today we're going to be trying to predict every single entrant in the 2024 Men's Royal Rumble match. And then once the Royal Rumble match is done, we're going to cross-reference to see how well our predictions did. Because the Royal Rumble season is full of so many rumors over who's going to make a shock appearance, who's going to debut, and there are so many clickbaity headlines these days. So it's time to put our money where our mouth is. I'm going to tell you exactly the 30 men that are going to show up, and if I'm wrong, well then I'm wrong. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, you're going to fall in love with this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. And with the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and of course WrestleMania coming up, you're going to want a nice source of daily wrestling content, so go ahead and subscribe. All right, let's jump into it. So as of the making of this video, we have a few names that have already been confirmed for the Men's Royal Rumble. So we'll start off with those guys first, starting off with CM Punk. Not only is CM Punk confirmed to already be in the Men's Royal Rumble match, but he is actually the odds-on favorite to win it because of his feud with Seth Rollins and people wanting to see that potential night one main event against Seth Rollins. And the way that it's shaping out, it's most likely that this is going to be Punk's first proper entrance, first proper appearance on televised WWE. And if I were a betting man, which I sure as hell am, I would probably assume that the WWE is going to want to edge you until you wait for CM Punk, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the last 5 entrants. Then there's Cody Rhodes, the very first guy that announced himself for the Royal Rumble match, and I think he's going to be the opposite of CM Punk because I think that he's going to have to run the gauntlet. I think that he's going to start in one of the first 5 positions, and he's going to last a very long time in the Royal Rumble. But of course, he is also one of the favorites to potentially win this, but I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't see him going back to back. Another entrant that's already been confirmed is Shinsuke Nakamura. Shout out to Shinsuke for completely reinventing and revitalizing his career over the last 6 months, because before I wouldn't have given 2 shits about him being in the Rumble, and now I can't wait to see him face off against some of the guys that are over on SmackDown that we haven't seen him interact with in a very long time. But yeah, this is like the first time I've ever really been excited for Nakamura to be in a Rumble, and that's kind of including the one that he won all those years ago. Bobby Lashley is a bit of a dark horse to potentially pull this off. They're already starting to tease the possibility of him feuding with Roman Reigns. I doubt that this is a WrestleMania program, but who knows? Maybe they want to save Cody for later on down the line. Maybe the Rock deal just doesn't pan out, and Bobby Lashley could be a good opponent for WrestleMania, but he's another one of those guys that's already been confirmed for the Royal Rumble. The last guy that's already been confirmed for this year's Men's Royal Rumble match is Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is a former winner. He was the last person eliminated in the 2022 Royal Rumble, so you always have to be careful with Drew McIntyre as a potential winner of the Royal Rumble. I don't think that that's his path this year. In fact, I think that we're going to have a superstar returning and eliminating him. We can talk a little bit more about that later on in the video. But similar to Nakamura, like this current iteration of Drew McIntyre is just so exciting to watch. I can't wait to see what he does in the Royal Rumble and how he matches up with guys like CM Punk. Some of you guys are going to be sad about this one, but I think that the men's fatal 4-way match happens earlier in the night. I think that LA Knight takes the pin. So, maybe as a consolation prize, the WWE puts him in the Royal Rumble match. He is obviously not confirmed for the Royal Rumble match, but I see a world where the WWE wants that big LA Knight pop at like number 21, number 22, somewhere in there, somewhere deeper into the Royal Rumble match. And I think that that's going to be a really nice surprise for those that are in the audience in Tampa Bay to hear LA Knight's music hit. I mean, this is kind of like a foregone conclusion. We're almost always guaranteed to get some sort of Kofi Kingston spot, and I don't think that this year is going to be any different. Hopefully he gets out of this streak of failing those cool spots, and hopefully he actually lands it this year. So I do see Kofi Kingston making an appearance in the Rumble. I see him doing one of those cool saves, and I see him probably immediately feuding with Ludwig Kaiser in the ring. Wherever Kofi Kingston goes, you have to also expect Xavier Woods. I think that we're going to have some sort of interaction between him and Kofi Kingston, and maybe he'll be part of the fun Kofi Kingston save as he usually has been over the last couple of years. So I think this is a pretty safe bet. The next one is Karrion Kross, the leader of the Last Testament, the brand new shiny faction, and he is most likely going to be going toe-to-toe with Bobby Lashley in the Royal Rumble match in some way, shape, or form. They are probably the ones that are going to eliminate one another, if I'm being honest. I do believe that Karrion Kross really needs a good showing in this year's Royal Rumble, especially if this is going to be his first in-ring showcase ever since debuting this new faction, this new look, this new entrance theme. So I really think that they need to give him at least a couple of minutes of dominance where he eliminates a couple of people in the ring. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of spot where maybe Bobby Lashley and Karrion Kross are going at it so badly, they both eliminate each other, and then there's a brawl on the outside between Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits, and all members of the Final Testament. We have a return alert. We have Omos here, who we haven't seen in a very long time. And if Omos isn't in this Royal Rumble, then you know, what are the commentators going to say? They're not going to get to say, oh my goodness, he's so big. How could they ever get him over the top rope? At this point, that's just like a Royal Rumble tradition for the commentators to say that. But actually, Omos has been healthy from what I know. He's been participating in house shows all over the country. He just hasn't been on televised WWE. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're saving him for a major return, or maybe once they finally have a good storyline for him. And the Royal Rumble is always a great place to start storylines, depending on like who eliminates one another. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Omos's music hit. He comes down with MVP. He eliminates somebody of worth, or somebody of worth eliminates him, setting up that program, most likely going into WrestleMania or Elimination Chamber. Hey folks, I make even more wrestling content over on patreon.com/SantiZap. So if you want to see my Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, NXT reviews, and you want to get my podcast 3 days earlier than everyone else, go check out patreon.com/SantiZap. It'll be the pinned comment, and it'll also be in the description of this video. That's it. Get back to the video. Another return. Let's book Sheamus in this. Sheamus has been gone for a while, and I think that this is a really awesome spot to bring him in, especially because this is an individual competition where it's last man standing, and he is the last man standing in the Brawling Brutes. Butch has now most likely going to rebrand himself as Pete Dunne, and he's off, playing, I don't know, British people with Tyler Bate. In it, bud. And then there's also, in it, bud. That's not, the British people don't say that. You guys say like, in it, bottle of water, or something like that. Look, I'm sorry, all my British viewers. It's a joke. Relax. Anyways, but we also have Ridge Holland over on NXT. So Sheamus has like nothing to do aside from chase glory for himself. And Sheamus is a big name, man. He's a Hall of Famer. Of course, he's gonna be beloved if his music hits. Be kind of cool if he came back with maybe his old theme, but I don't know, a guy can dream. I think you can more or less book The Miz for sure to have some appearance. I don't know that he's going to have this like amazing performance in there, but I do think at some point or another, he's going to have an interaction with R-Truth and members of the Judgment Day, because I believe we're going to get Awesome Truth versus the Judgment Day at WrestleMania for those titles. I believe we have Sami Zayn also returning. He's only been gone for a couple of weeks, but don't forget that he was taken out by Drew McIntyre. I believe that Sami Zayn is going to come out and he's immediately going to start brawling with Drew McIntyre, setting up that program maybe for WrestleMania even, who knows. Next up, we have Matt Cardona, the formerly known as Zack Ryder. I don't know, man. There's no like particular rumors that are saying that he's like appearing. I just have this feeling that this is the year that he comes back home to the WWE. His wife is absolutely crushing it. I am sure that the WWE is keeping tabs on him in the independents, where he is absolutely crushing it. And I think that there's a perfect place for him in the roster today, in an awesome pairing between him and Chelsea Green. I think they could make such an awesome on-screen couple. I think it would be fantastic, and I think a great place to bring him back would be the Royal Rumble. And you know, the Royal Rumble, I feel like it always needs some sort of like big major return, and last year's Royal Rumble didn't really have one. It had Cody Rhodes returning, but again, that was pre-announced. I would love like a genuine surprise out of nowhere return to the WWE, and I believe that Matt Cardona can provide that to us. I think it's a fair bet that we're also probably going to get the leader of the Legado World Order, which is what he called himself in SmackDown. I don't know if that's like the actual name of the faction. Again, as of the making of this video, we don't actually know. But you know, he's being treated like one of the top heels on SmackDown, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a spot over in the Royal Rumble this year. Ricochet is probably not going to win this, but I do think that that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gives us a cool spot or two. Gunther has to be one of the favorites to potentially win this. When you look at the landscape of everything that's going on in the world of the WWE, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and maybe The Rock and Cody Rhodes, it is kind of weird to picture a world where Gunther wins this and goes on to headline one of the nights of WrestleMania with just how jam-packed the main event scene is right now in the WWE. Still, this is Gunther, one of the most protected professional wrestlers in recent memory. So I wouldn't be surprised if he once again has an amazing showing like he did last year, where he lasted from number one all the way to the very end. And I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow pull the trigger on him and he wins, especially if we live in a world where maybe Seth Rollins drops the title before the WrestleMania and maybe Damian Priest is the champion because he cashed in. I don't know. I could see a world where Gunther and Damian Priest Imperium versus Judgment Day becomes a thing. If you're gonna have Gunther, I think you gotta have Ludwig Kaiser in there, a guy that has absolutely impressed in the last couple of weeks as this ruthless, evil, brutal heel that really now works really well alongside Gunther, because before he just sort of felt like the stooge that was sort of there, and I really felt like he sort of elevated himself, not to the same status as Gunther, but now he should be allowed to walk in the same light as the Ring General. I think you can expect Jey Uso in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets screwed over by Jimmy again, just like at the Royal Rumble, maybe setting up their feud and their match at WrestleMania. If there's anyone on this roster that like has earned a spot at a PLE, has earned a spot in the Royal Rumble, it's Ivar, right? I think we can agree with that. I'm not saying that you have to love Ivar, but his work rate over the last several months in these giant meat fest kaiju matches has been absolutely remarkable. We have to remember, this is a guy that was a perennial member of the tag team division who has now risen as one of the cream of the crops in the mid-card intercontinental title scene. I would not be surprised if the WWE gives some love to the big meaty men. And hell, if we're gonna give some love to the big meaty men, why not include Bronson Reed in there as well, who has also been part of that renaissance of the big meaty slap fest over the last couple of months on Monday Night Raw. Don't be surprised, not only if Bronson Reed is in the match, but that Bronson Reed has a really good showing to really build him up to Elimination Chamber in Australia, in his backyard. With the injury to Carmelo Hayes, I think that we're only going to get one NXT call-up, and I'm going to peg that to be Braun Breaker. In my opinion, Braun Breaker is probably the most main roster ready member of the NXT roster. I know Ilya Dragunov is there, and same with Carmelo Hayes, but Carmelo Hayes may have just gotten injured, and then we have Ilya Dragunov that's busy with the NXT title. Meanwhile, Braun Breaker has already done all of that stuff and doesn't really have any feuds lined up for him, to the point where it's just like we're just sort of wasting him on NXT, and I think that this could be a really great introduction to the world of the main roster. A lot of main roster fans that only watch Raw and SmackDown are probably going to know who Braun Breaker is because of his past interactions with John Cena and The Undertaker in that crazy episode of NXT. Here's another surprise alert. We have the return of Andrade El Idolo, formerly known as Andrade Cien Almas. To me, this is like a foregone conclusion. Maybe not necessarily that he appears at the Rumble, but it's a foregone conclusion that Andrade is gonna come back to the WWE. Maybe there's a world where he goes back to Mexico to AAA, but now the fact that he is together with Charlotte, I think that illusion of him going back to Mexico full time kind of diminishes. I think that he's going to come back to the WWE. We're talking about somebody that was on the main roster for a while. Main roster fans are going to know Andrade, and the hardcore fans are going to know him even more from his awesome time in NXT Black and Gold and his time over in All Elite Wrestling. I think that he's going to get a great ovation from the Tampa Bay crowd. Brock Lesnar is going to be in this Royal Rumble, and no, he is not going to win it. For the love of God, no, he's not going to win. And I do think that he is going to be in this Royal Rumble for the sake of setting up whatever feud they have planned for him, either in Australia or in Philadelphia for WrestleMania. If I have my way with things, I would love for him to get eliminated by Gunther or the other way around so that we can set that up for WrestleMania, because that is the match that the fans are clamoring for. But yeah, I think that Brock Lesnar is going to get a pretty big pop. I mean, this is Brock freaking Lesnar, but I don't see a world where he's even remotely one of the favorites to win this. I'm going to make this one super quick. I do think that we're going to get a good chunk of members from the Judgment Day. I do believe that we're going to get Finn Balor, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, and that we're also going to get Damian Priest, and we're going to get the leader of the Judgment Day, R-Truth, in this men's Royal Rumble match. Look, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the R-Truth spot is supposed to be JD McDonough's, but R-Truth somehow just decides to steal his spot because he believes that JD isn't in Judgment Day, and he takes the spot, and he's now in the Rumble. I think it would be great, hilarious hijinks. Now, the proposition of Damian Priest being in the Royal Rumble is very interesting, considering he is the men's Money in the Bank briefcase holder, and there's maybe a possibility that in a couple of hours, as of the making of this video, that he might actually be the World Heavyweight Champion, because I'm recording this before Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal happened, so we might need to revisit this. Austin Theory, I would assume because of this injury, it looked pretty bad, is likely going to be left off of the Royal Rumble. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I hope that Theory is in there. But I do believe that his other half, I think that Grayson Waller, is going to be in this year's Royal Rumble match. I think he's going to have a good showing, and I think that he can be a good representative of those two. Grayson Waller has been fantastic over the last several months, and I think it's time that he gets showcased in a PLE. And by showcase, I don't mean like some Grayson Waller effect. Get the Grayson Waller rub. I want him to actually like be showcased in a match. I'm so conflicted about, I really am so conflicted about this. Do I want this? Yes and no. Yes, because it's The Rock and he's my second favorite WWE superstar of all time. But no, because I don't want him to win the Royal Rumble. Here is the scenario that I want. If The Rock is in there, and you know what, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around this. I'm going to say The Rock is in the Royal Rumble, okay? This is the prediction that I'm making. The Rock is in the Royal Rumble. I'm even doing the Rock thing, how he talks like this, and the people, and the eyebrow, and the pies. Anyways, I think that we could be looking at a scenario like the 2004 Royal Rumble match where Brock Lesnar goes in and eliminates Goldberg, all right, to try and prevent Goldberg from winning and facing him at that upcoming WrestleMania. I could see a possibility where The Rock is out there and he gets tag teamed by the entire bloodline and eliminated, and preventing The Rock from winning the whole thing, but still instantly right there setting up what we want, Roman versus The Rock, without having to give The Rock the Royal Rumble victory. I think that's how you walk out of this, by getting your cake and getting to eat it too. But folks, we shall see. Again, we're going to cross-reference this, and I'll let you know if maybe we need to update this depending on what happens over the next week or two that's left between Raw, SmackDown, NXT. We shall see. Let me know what other surprises or entrants you feel deserve to be in this year's Royal Rumble. The comments section is a safe space, so go ahead and sound off there. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.